Everyone, it is Tuesday, July 3rd, 2018, and it's time to go to work on music. It's been an excellent day. I'm in a really good place and excited for a productive session as usual. Got a big day ahead of me. I've got a lot of time off this week, which I'm really excited about, so gonna dive deep on the music front. Got a big 8-hour session today. I just finished up 6 vlogs, so I'm steadily catching up on those. Should be done by the end of the week, which would be huge. Let's get that weight off my plate, and yeah, I'm gonna use a lot of time today to make some serious headway on the home mastering masterclass. Might polish up the whole thing. We'll see how I do. Probably spend a little bit more time working on the Full Circle remaster. Probably going to pick up some extra plugins today to help with that. I've been talking about that the last couple videos, and I'll save those updates for later, but the short version is I haven't been totally satisfied with the built-in Logic plugins as far as mastering goes, particularly the limiters and the multipressor, and so I'm going to experiment with some different brands and see what I can get that makes me happy. And then I'm going to make some serious project on the new Aeons tune, hopefully finish up the bridge section, and possibly get some final takes of that. So it's going to be a big day. Appreciate you guys for tuning in as always. Let me know if you have any thoughts or questions as we go, and I'll update you at the end with what I accomplish. Let's do it!
That has a dramatic impact on the guitars, I'm sure you can hear. 500 hertz, 1K, down to 300, all these frequencies are very important for getting the balls, a guitar sound for a better tone, getting the grind, the muscular vocal quality of them that you need for those kind of rhythm guitar riffs, and for a really strong lead sound.
Alright, definitely an awesome, super epic day overall. It's been a long time since I did an 8-9 hour session like I did today. It's been at least a couple months, maybe 3, and yeah, I really started feeling the burn in the second half of the day, guys. It was a challenge to stay in the game, but I'm glad I did, and kind of wish I could speed up these classes a little more than 2x, honestly, because I feel like I'm getting the general idea, and I'm sifting through some of the less critical central material. It's more ancillary stuff, but it's still really valuable. So, got a bunch of vlogs edited earlier, jumped into the online class front, did a bunch of mastering and EQ lessons from the Home Mastering Masterclass. I did the entire multiband compression class, and the main thrust of that was multiband compression. The instructor recommends using slow attack and release times, and that helps control the sort of after transient sound. Transient's like a big spike at the beginning of a drum hit, or like a sound from your voice. It's like a transient, it's a big spike in the waveform. And he usually doesn't use the multiband compressor to control those so much. He uses more the limiter to kind of keep those in check, which is at the end of the signal chain. And a limiter is just a compressor with a really high ratio, so basically when the waveform hits the limiter, it just like stops the waveform essentially, so it's to keep you from peaking and getting digital distortion from the waveform going beyond the boundaries of what the digital wave file can handle, basically. And yeah, it was really interesting because he was talking about how using multiband compression makes it easier to EQ into the compressor and makes it easier to get away with bigger boosts in certain areas of the spectrum, because a multiband compressor basically compresses only a certain band of the frequencies. So like you'll have, if you have a multipressor or a multiband compressor, you'll have a compression for the low frequency part of the track, compression for the mids, and compression for the highs. So let's say you really want to boost the bass or like bring out the weight of the kick drum, which might be like around 50 hertz, you can get a big boost going in there, and because your compressor will hold that, it'll control the peaks and the big movements of sound and volume in that area alone, you won't get this really pronounced pumping effect that you would get if you just had a single band compressor, where every time the bass spikes, it ducks everything else in the mix. So it helps you get bigger EQ boosts and more and larger changes if you want to edit things without affecting how the overall tonality of the mix and like the realism of it, if that makes sense. So that was super awesome and really instructive. I'm definitely on the next level as far as my multiband compression game goes. From there I got a quick drum practice in, which was great, and then did a little bit of work on the mastering I was doing yesterday and listened back to some of that. Sounded good. I was happy with it overall. Took a break, had some food, jumped back in, and purchased some plugins that I've had my eye on for a while. I got the Ozone Suite, which I haven't hooked up yet, but I was complaining to you guys about how I haven't been super happy with the Logic adaptive limiter and the multipressor, so I want to experiment with something different and see what kind of results I can get. And the Ozone stuff just gives me more control. Like, you have a harmonic exciter, which basically has a distortion, but you can choose which band of the frequency spectrum you do that, so you can bring out some vocals or some high end a little bit easier there. And it also has the same thing with something they call tone shaper or something like that, but it's basically like sibilance control, something like a de-esser. So if you have too many harsh or sounds from the vocals, you can kind of scale those back, which will be really nice for some previous tracks that I have that I just felt are a little harsh. And then I worked on the bridge section for the new Aeons tune, pretty much got that up to speed. You know, some mistakes, it's not perfect, but I just like to make progress with that stuff gradually and not push it too hard, although I probably could have gotten more of that in the later half of the session now that I think about it. Live and learn. I'll get a more balanced session in tomorrow. And yeah, then I just hit this EQ section of the mastering masterclass really hard for the last few hours, and just jammed on all these different frequency spectrums that he thinks are really important. So 50 hertz is sort of like the weight or super bottom of the kick drum and the bass, sort of like the thump or the oomph. And then 100 hertz is more like the punch and the power, like what you feel in your chest in a nightclub or something like that from the bass. And then 200 is sort of like the top end of the bass, sort of lower mid-range, like some vocals, some snare, a lot of times snare in the 200 hertz region. And then he moved up to the 500 hertz region, which is like the heart of vocals and low vocals, guitars, synthesizers, that kind of stuff. Then moved up to 1K, and basically he's taking us through all these different tracks and different genres and showing like big boosts and big cuts in all those areas so that you can kind of like get some experience experimenting with what that sounds like and how it feels and get his perspective on it and like how it's commonly used in mastering, which is super, super valuable. It's just a boatload of material and information. I've been sitting here just like soaking it up, and honestly just feeling like, wow, this is kind of hard to stay in the game here. So I think what I'll do in the future, and this reminds me of sort of what I was going through a couple months ago, is just like get some more variety in the session and just mix between different things more frequently. It makes it harder to plan the session, but it makes the session a little more enjoyable and a lot less of like a grind, just knock down, drag out affair. So I'll keep that in mind for the future. And like long term, this just may not be the way that I end up working. And like just working these super long hours, it's like, wow, this really takes a lot of the fun out and the excitement out of it. It's just like pure willpower, you know. So I'll think about that and think about, you know, what the most important commitment is right now and adjust accordingly. So just quickly rounding it out, 10K is like a common boost. 3.5K is sort of like the top end of the vocals. Like that 1, 2, 3.5K is like where we're super, super sensitive to our ears. So you got to be really careful, and usually more mild adjustments end up working well there. But some tracks really need that to bring the vocals to life and make them more intelligible. And then the 10K thing is like there's not a lot of note information or harmonic information there. It's more just like upper overtones of guitars, percussion, sibilance from vocals, that kind of stuff. And it's commonly like the air that you hear people adding some air to a track or something, and it makes it feel a little more spacious because you don't have that like blanket over your head kind of feeling when you have that top end high frequency stuff. And then we were just rounding it out with 16K, which is sort of this space where like there isn't a ton of harmonic information. It's mostly cymbals, top end of percussion, and sort of just like the shine or sheen on the track. So you can actually get away with some pretty big boosts and big cuts up there because there's just not a whole lot of musical information. But the instructor makes the point that it doesn't have a very natural roll off, so you can, if you're not careful, you can get that very digital harsh sound. Whereas analog tape, you know, naturally over time it would degrade a little bit, and you would get some loss of those super high frequency, you know, bits of information. So just a ton of data absorption today. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys are out there grinding towards your goals, enjoying the process. That's what I'm out here doing. I'll see you guys tomorrow for more. Can't wait.